Math. When you need help, you use Minute Math.
Hi, I'm Sean Gannon, and this is Minute Math, and today we're going to learn about adding and subtracting decimals. (5.4) plus a negative 9.7. Okay, so we have 5.4 plus negative 9.7. Well, the negative number here, right, is large, so I know when I have this, when I add these two together, my overall number is going to be negative. So my little technique right here is I'm going to put a 9.7 up top and subtract 5.4, because essentially we're just finding the difference between these two numbers. Now, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to solve this, but I need to know that, again, my final answer is going to be negative. So 7 minus 4 is 3, and 9 minus 5 is 4. Okay, so 4.3, but don't forget, we said it was a negative, so a negative 4.3. And there we have it, our final answer. 10.8 plus a negative 4.73. Okay? Well, since adding a negative is the same thing as subtraction, I can write the problem like this. 10.8 minus 4.73. And the key is to make sure the decimal places are lined up. Okay? So there's an imaginary 0 right there. Okay, we're going to put that there. And now we got to subtract it. Well, 0 minus 3 doesn't work, right? So we take the 8 and we make it to a 7 and carry that 1. Now we have 10 minus 3, which is 7. 7 minus 7, which is 0. Decimal place comes down. And 10 minus 4 is 6. And so here we have our final answer is 6.07. Negative 0.5 plus 0.3. Okay? Well, I have negative 0.5 plus 0.3. I know that this negative is more negative than this 0.3 is positive, right? So my overall answer is going to be negative. With that knowledge, I'm just going to find the difference of these two, and then knowing there, I have to then make it negative. 0.5 is larger, so that comes first. 0.5 minus 0.3. 5 minus 3 is 2. Keep the decimals lined up. 0 goes down. But again, like I said, since 0.5 was a negative and was larger than 0.3, but think of like the absolute value of it, we have we have to make it a negative, so it's 0.2, but it's negative 0.2. And that is the final answer. Negative 4.79 plus negative 0.4. Okay? Well, I'm looking to combine these decimals. Now, they're both negative, so I know if I add them together, it's going to be even a larger negative. So what I'm going to do is just treat it like it's an addition problem. 4 without the negatives, 4.79, and then I have 0.4, and make sure we lined up the decimals, and I'm going to add another 0 here so it's lined up. I'm going to add these two. 9 plus 0 is 9. 7 plus 4 is 11. We carry the 1. Make sure the decimal place goes there. 1 plus 4 is 5. Plus 0 is 5 still. And so we have 5.19. But, again, both are negative. So we have negative 5.19 right there. And there we have our final answer. Negative 5.19. 3.305 plus 1.7. Alright, so 3.305 plus 1.7. So when we add this using the traditional method, 3.305, we have to make sure the decimals line up. 1.7, and then we add these trailing zeros to match up here so we're all in line. Now I'm going to add these two. 5 plus 0 is 5. 0 plus 0 is 0. 3 plus 7 is 10, so we have 0 for the decimal place and carry that 1. 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 1 is 5, so we have 5 here. So our final answer is just 5.005. Negative 3.6 plus 0.43. Alright, so when I add these together, right, this number is a more negative than this one is positive, right? So what we want to do, we're just going to find the difference between these two, but we know since this one's more negative, our final answer is going to be negative. So this is the larger number, so 3.6, and I'm going to subtract, find the difference here, 0.43, and make sure my decimal places are lined up. I'm going to add an extra 0 to that 6 to help me out, and now we're going to subtract. Well, 0 minus 3 we cannot do, So we had to take 1 from the 6, make that a 5, and put a 1 up there. Now we have 10 minus 3, which is 7. Then 5 minus 4, which is 1. Decimal place here. 3 minus 3 is 3, not 0, 3, right? Oh, sorry. 3 minus 0 is 3. Got tongue-tied there. So now I have 3.17. But what I said was our final answer has to be negative, because that was a more negative than 4.3 was positive. So we slap out a negative there. Our final answer is negative 3.17. Negative 4.3 plus 14.5. Okay? So now I'm going to add these two together. Well, I can rearrange this, right, and kind of create into a new problem and put 14.5 first. So I have 14.5, and then we have plus and negative 4.3. Well, that plus and negative is the same thing as subtraction, the difference. So we have 14.5 minus 4.3, right? So here we can do some long division. So, not long division, oh my goodness, being tongue-tied here. Brain's all twisted up too. Let's just do 14.5 is the traditional way of subtracting, and 4.3 when we subtract the two numbers. Now, make sure we keep the decimal lined up. That's very important. And we go down. 5 minus 3 is 2. 4 minus 4 is 0. And we bring down the 1. Nothing there. We have 1. So we have 10.2. So here we have 10.2 as our final answer. Negative 7.1 plus 3.63. All right. So where do I go from here? Well, this number, right, 7.1, the negative, is more negative than 3.63 is positive. So this is larger if we had, absolute value over it. Okay? So with that, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to find the difference between these two and know that my final answer has to be negative. So I take the larger after the absolute value, 7.1, and I'm going to subtract 3.63 from it. So 3.63, and we subtract it. Now, make sure the decimals line up there. I'm going to put an extra 0 here, and now let's go for it. So we have 0 minus 3. Oh, can't do that. We have to add make that 0 into a 10. So we take the 1 from this 0, take the 1 from this 1, make it a 0. Now we have 10. 10 minus 3 is 7. All right. Now again, we have 0 and 6. We can't subtract 0 and 6, right? Or 6 from 0. So I'm going to take 1 from the 7 and make that a 6. Now I have a 10 up there. 10 minus 6 is 4. Great. Decimal place comes down. Now I have 6 minus 3, which is easy, and 3. But don't forget, now we have 3.47, that our final answer needed to be negative, right? So we have a negative 3.47, and there we have our final answer. 13.7 plus 3.2. All right, so I have to add these two together. Well, I'm just going to go traditionally on top, right? 13.7, I'm going to line them up, and 3.2, and make sure the decimals line up right there. All right, so let's add them. 7 plus 2 is a 9, okay? And then 3 plus 3, our decimal stays there. Don't forget it. 3 plus 3 is 6. And 1 plus nothing is 1. So now it's 16.9. And so 16.9 is just our final answer. Negative 10.9 plus 6.1. All right, so I'm going to add these two together. Well, this one's a little tricky, right? Since this negative number, right, 10.9 is larger in a sense when we take the absolute value than the 6.1 is. We're going to know our final answer is just a negative number when we find the difference between the two. So what I'm going to do is just find the difference between these two and then slap on a negative. So we have 10.9, and I'm going to subtract 6.1. Now we make sure we large number first after the absolute value, okay, and make sure the decimal points are lined up. All right, so now we have 9 minus 1 is 8. Okay, decimal point stays right there. You can think of 10 minus 6, but we can think of it, we can slide that over, but really 10 minus 6 is just 4. All right, so we have 4.8 right there. We have 4.8, but again, we knew our final answer had to be negative, so we slap on a negative, negative 4.8 right there, and so there we have our final answer. (2.2) minus 7.3. Okay, 2.2 minus 7.3 right there. Well, I know when I find this difference, 7.3 is larger than 2.2, so my final answer is going to be negative, okay? So knowing that the final answer has to be negative, I'm just going to find the difference between these two numbers. 7.3 is going to be larger. It's a larger number, right? So we're going to put that first. So we have 7.3, and we're going to subtract 2.2 to that, okay? So now we do it like we always do. 3 minus 2 is 1. Keep the decimals lined up, and very important there. 7 minus 2 is 5, so we have 5.1. But again, we knew it had to be a negative number. So we have a negative, we put that on there, negative 5.1, and there we have our final answer. Negative 8.1 minus negative 8.9, okay? Well, this one's a little tricky, okay? Because we have subtracting a negative. All right, well, when we subtract a negative, we know we're adding a positive. So we have negative 8.1 plus a positive 8.9, okay? Now, with the rules of addition, I can rearrange this, right? So I have 8.9 first, and then here, plus a negative 8.1. All right, where do I go from there, right? A lot of steps here, right? 8.9 plus a negative 8.1, that's the same thing as subtraction. 8.9 minus 8.1. And now I know I can set it up to be an easy subtraction problem. 8.9 minus 8.1, right? We line it up, decimals lined up. 9 minus 1 is 8. Decimal point here. 8 minus 8 is 0. And so my final answer here is 0.8. 2.9 minus 9.4. Okay. So what do we need to do first? Well, I have 2.9 minus 9.4. I know that 9.4 is larger than 2.9, so our answer is going to be a negative number. With that being said, I need to keep that in my mind. 9.4, I need to find the difference between 9.4 and 2.9. So 9.4 will come first when I do that, and I subtract 2.9 from it. 4 minus 9, well, I can't really do that. Got to take a number from 9. 9 becomes an 8. Add a 1 there to the 4, so we have 14. So 14 minus 9 comes out to be 5. Decimal point comes down. And we have 8 minus 2, which is 6. Now be careful, we're not done. We knew our final answer had to be negative, so we're going to put a negative with a 6. So we have negative 6.5 right there. So here we have our final answer, negative 6.5. Negative 3.9 minus 8.9, okay? Well, I know when I subtract these two numbers that the subtraction is the same thing as adding a negative. And this benefits me, because that becomes now negative 3.9 plus a negative 8.9. And this is treated just like an addition problem, okay? But we know the number is going to be a larger, quote-unquote, negative number, right? So let's go add these two together, and we know we have to put on a negative at the end, 3.9 and 8.9. Okay, and let's add them. Now, make sure the decimals are lined up. Okay, that's very important. 9 plus 9, 18. 8, we carry the 1. Decimal place comes down here. 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 8 is 12. So we have 12.8. But we knew the number had to be negative, right? Because it had to be, right? Because we have negative plus a negative is a negative. So we have negative 12.8 here, and that is our final answer. 9.8 minus 7.1, okay? Well, since 9.8 is larger than 7.1, this is pretty easy, right? We just subtract it like we normally do. 9.8 over over 7.1, and we're subtracting it. Just make sure the decimal points are lined up there. 8 minus 1 is a 7. 9 minus 2 is a 2. Make sure the decimal place comes down here. And so our final answer is just 2.7. Pretty quick and easy here. Negative 18.278 minus a negative 6.8. Okay. Well, what do I need to do here? Well, I know subtracting a negative is the same thing as adding a positive, so I'm going to do that. We have negative 18.278 plus a positive 6.8. Now, when I take the absolute value of these two numbers, 18.278 is larger than 6.8, okay? And so what I need to do is just really find the difference between these two, but know that my final answer is going to be negative because here, when we took the absolute value, it is larger. So we line that up, 18.278, that comes first, it's larger, and we have 6.8 underneath, put trailing zeros to line up, make sure the decimal points lined up, and we subtract the 2. We find the difference, okay? Pretty straightforward. 8 minus 0 is 8. 7 minus 0 is 7. But 2 minus 8 can't really do that, right, doing this. So we take 1 from the 8. 8 becomes a 7. Put a 1 with a 2. 12. 12 minus 8 is 4. Don't forget the decimal place. 7 minus 6 is a 1. And bring down that 1. And so we have 11.478. But what's tricky is we knew it had to be negative. So we put a negative there, 11.478. And there we have our final answer. 17.9 minus a negative 19.4. Okay, with 19.4 right there. Okay, there we go. Okay, all right. So, fun thing with this. Subtracting a negative is the same thing as adding a positive. So we have 17.9 plus a positive 19.4. Now this becomes an easy problem. We're just adding 2 positive numbers. So do it like we always do. 17.9 plus 19.4. Just make sure the decimals are lined up. 9 plus 4 is 13. 3, we carry the 1. Don't forget that decimal there. Now, we have, well, 1 plus 7 is 8, plus 9 is 17. Okay, put a 7 here, add another 1, carry that, right? 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. We have 373, or 37.3. So my final answer is 37.3. 15.5 subtracted by 15.5. Well, since we're taking a number and subtracting the same number from it, they cancel each other out. That will happen for all numbers that are the same. So 15.5 minus 15.5 is just going to be 0. So there's our, I'll put a box around it, final answer. Now, we can do it a different way if we want, right? If I want to show you here, I have 15.5 and I subtract 15.5 from that just so you can see it. 5 minus 5 is 0. 5 minus 5 is 0. 1 minus 1 is 0. 0.00.0 is just 0. Okay? So that's another way to see it. 1.58 minus a negative 13.6. Okay? Well, we know subtracting a negative is the same thing as adding a positive. So we have 1.58 plus a positive 13.6. Now this problem is so much easier to solve. I just got to line it up and add it. 1.58, 13.6, put a 0 so the decimal matches up. Make sure, or the digits match up. Make sure these decimals match up. And let's add them together. 8 plus 0 is 8. 5 plus 6 is 11. Carry the 1. Don't forget this decimal place. 1 plus 1 is 2. Plus 3 is 5, so we have 5. Bring down, and then this 1 doesn't get added to anything, so we just have 1. So our final answer here is just 15.18. 1.81 minus 17.17. Okay. Well, we know that 17.17 is larger than 1.81. And so we're going to be subtracting that 17.17. That makes our final answer to be negative. So I'm going to keep that in my brain. So what I'm really going to do is just find the difference between these two numbers and then put a negative on there. So for the larger number first, 17.17, and I'm going to subtract 1.81 from it. Now we make sure we line up the decimal point. That's very important. And our digits. 7 minus 1 is a 6. 1 minus 8 I can't do, but I need to borrow from the 7. So I make that a 6 and put 10 there. So 10 plus 1 is 11, so we have 11 here. 11 minus 8 comes out to be 3. Don't forget that decimal place. 6 minus 1 is going to be a 5. 1 minus nothing, it's just 1. So we have 15.36. Be careful, we're not done, right? We have to put that negative on there like we said. So we have negative 15.36, and there we have our final answer. $19.4 plus 24.2. Okay? So to just add these up, I'm going to put one over the other. I just have to make sure the decimals are lined up. Okay? So 19.4 and 24.2 decimals lined up. and just add it like we always do. 4 plus 2 is 6, decimal point there. 9 plus 4 is 13. 3 carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 2 is 4. 436, so 43.6, excuse me, is our final answer. Negative 14.8 minus a negative 9.7. All right, negative 14.8 minus a negative 9.7. Well, we know that subtracting a negative, same thing as adding a positive. So let's do that. We have negative 14.8 plus a positive 9.7. Okay. Now, if I put the absolute value around negative 14.8 and 9.7, negative 14.8 would be larger, right? Because we take the absolute value of that. So since that happens, when we combine these two, our final answer is going to be negative, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep that in mind, and I'm just going to find the difference between these two numbers. Then I'm going to put on that negative, which then will get me my final answer. So 14.8, larger of the two. Subtract 9.7, let's find the difference. 8 minus 7 is 1. Keep the decimal place all lined up there. 14 minus 9, okay, we can kind of do that there. 14 minus 9 is 5, so we have 5.1. But hold on, not done yet, right? We know our final answer had to be negative, so put a negative right there, negative 5.1, and there we have it. Our final answer, negative 5.1. Negative 9.1 plus 3.5. Okay. Well, I know when I combine these two, negative 9.1 is more negative than 3.5 is positive. So my final answer has to be negative. Okay, so I'm going to keep that in my mind. So to do stuff like this, right, I'm just going to find the difference between these two numbers and then know my final answer has to be negative. Okay, so that's one of our techniques there. So we have 9.1 just minus 3.5. Keep them both positive and then make sure the decimals lined up, but we know our final answer is going to be negative. Well, we can't do 1 minus 5, so 9 becomes an 8, and we carry the 1 over. 11 minus 5 is 6, decimal point lined up, and 8 minus 3 is 5. But again, be careful, my final answer had to be negative, right? So we put a negative on there, negative 5.6 is just our final answer. So 0.96 minus 8.5, okay? So 0.96 minus 8.5, okay? Well, I know that 8.5 is larger than 0.96. That's going to make my final answer negative. I need to keep that in my mind. When we have something like this, right, and it can't just easily be subtracted, what we need to do is find the difference between these two numbers and then put on a negative. So 8.5 is larger, so that's first, and we have 0.96. Okay, I'm going to put a 0 with the 5 to make sure it's lined up, and now we subtract the 2. Find the difference. All right, 0 minus 6, cannot do that. 5 becomes a 4. Carry the 1. 10 minus 6 is 4. Great. But 4 minus 9 now, we cannot do, right? So we take 1 from the 8, that becomes a 7. Put a 1 on the 4. 14 minus 9 is just 5. Bring the decimal point down. 7 minus 0 is just 7. But again, we have 7.54. Again, we need to make sure it stays negative, right? So put a negative there, negative 7.54, and there we have our final answer. 9.5 minus a negative 19.3. Okay? Well, 9.5 minus a negative 19.3. Well, subtracting a negative, same thing as adding a positive. So 9.5 plus a positive 19.3. Now this becomes easy. We just put one over the other and add them. Okay? So 9.5 plus 19.3. Make sure the decimals are lined up. 5 plus 3 is an 8. Decimal stays here. 9 plus 9 is 18, right? 18, 8, carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. So our final answer here is 28.8. And there we have it. 3.4 minus a negative 12.1. Okay? Well, we know subtracting a negative, same thing as adding a positive. So let's change that. 3.4 plus a positive 12.1. Now, we're just adding two positive numbers. Pretty easy to do. 3.4, line it up. 12.1, make sure the decimals line up there. Okay, 4 plus 1 is a 5. Put the decimal place right there. 3 plus 2 is also a 5, and 1 comes down. And so our final answer here, pretty quick and easy, 15.5. 8.7 plus 3.8 plus 12.3. All right, so what do we do? Well, let's just work 2 at a time and then add the last one at the end, right? It's all addition, okay? All the same. Now, or actually, we can put them all together. So we'll just stack them all, so I'll do it at once. 8.7, 3.8, and 12.3. Add them all together. Make sure the decimals are lined up. Now, one of my little techniques here, I like to kind of make some pairs here. And I see a pair, 3 and 7 are a 10, right? So I kind of know that, so I kind of keep that in mind. 3 plus 7 is a 10, plus 8 is 18. So 8 right there, and we carry the 1. Now, 8 and 2 is also a 10, right? So 8 and 2, if you're going to do it like that, that's a 10, right? So that's a 10. Plus 3 is 13, plus that 1 is 14, so we have 4 and carry the 1 right there. 1 plus 1 is 2. So here we have our final answer, 24.8. Negative 13.6 plus 12 minus a negative 15.5. All right. First thing I do here is minus a negative, same thing as adding a positive. So 13.6 plus 12 plus a positive 15.5. Okay? Well, since these two numbers are positive, I'm just going to add them together first. Okay? I'm going to kind of deal with that on the side. 12 plus 15.5. Make sure the decimal points line up. We have 12.0, so put a 0 there to match it. 0 plus 5 is 5. Decimal point comes down. 2 plus 5 is 7. 1 plus 1 is 2. So now we have 27.5. Let's go put that here. Negative 13.6 plus, these two came together, 27.5. But I'm not done, right? Well, we know that adding that negative here, right, 27.5, same thing as subtracting. So, but to get there, I'm just going to flip the plus sign in case you don't know. Flip the around the plus sign because we can rearrange this. And so we have 27.5 plus a negative 13.6. Okay? Then, adding a negative, same thing as subtraction, 27.5 minus 13.6, okay? And you'll, at some point, be able to jump from here to here, but if not, you can just do these steps and you'll get there. So let's go subtract these two, 27.5 minus 13.6, okay? Subtract them. Well, 5 minus 6, I can't do that, right? So get 1 from the 7, that becomes a 6, add a 1. 15 minus 6 is just good old 9. Decimal place stays there. 6 minus 3 is a 3. 2 minus 1 is a 1. 13.9 is just my final answer. 3.4 minus 5 minus 10.4. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do here, I'm going to write these subtractions as adding a negative. I think it's easier to see. So 3.4 plus a negative 5 plus a negative 10.4. Okay? Well, what I do is, since these two are both negative and we're adding them together, they're going to be a larger negative, right? So I'm going to do that on the side, just 5 plus 10.4. Keep the decimals lined up if you need to. Right? And I imagine they're both positive, but I know my final answer is going to be negative. So 0 plus 4 is 4. Decimal point stays there. 5 plus 0 is 5. 1 comes down. 15.4. Don't forget it's negative. So we have 3.4 plus a negative 15.4 here. And you probably, to be honest, could have done it there, right? Anyway, so now we're working on getting the rest done. Well, negative 15.54 is larger, right? More negative, and 3.4 is positive. So all we have to do is find the difference between these two numbers and then slap on the negative because this one's larger. So 15, oops, put it right there. Why not 15? Well, quickly erase that. That's probably not the proper place to put it. So I'll just put it over here to the left here. 15.4, subtract 3.4, okay? 4 minus 4 is 0. We're finding the difference here. 15 minus 3 is good old 12. Okay, we have 12.0, but we know it has to be negative, and we don't really need the point 0. And so we have a negative 12 as our final answer. Negative 5.6 minus a negative 12.6 plus a negative 6.6. All right. Well, first thing, I'm going to kind of do two steps here. I know subtraction is the same thing as adding a positive, right? So I'm going to kind of do that there, but I'm also going to rearrange this. So let's just bring down the negative 5.6, okay? And I'm going to write that, you'll see in the future, as plus a negative 5.6. Then we have plus here plus a positive 12.6. Then this adding a negative 6.6, I'm going to put it with this other negative. So we have negative 6.6, bringing it all the way around here. And that's just because I want to rearrange eventually the negatives together. So we have two negative numbers and a positive number, all right? So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to combine these two negatives, negative 6.6 and negative 5.6. So we can do that right here, 6.6 and 5.6. Now we know that number has to be a larger negative, so I'm just going to treat them as positive but put a negative on afterwards. 6.6, or 6 plus 6 is 12. 2, decimal point lines up, carry the 1. 6 plus 5 is 11, plus 1 is 12. So we have 12.2. But don't forget, that's negative. So we have a negative 12.2 here, and we have plus 12.6. Now, hopefully you can see this is the same thing as 12.6 minus 12.2, but if not, we know we can rearrange this to have 12.6 plus a negative 12.2. Then, it's adding a negative, same thing as subtracting. So we have 12.6 minus 12.2, okay? And that one's pretty easy to do. So, put it right here, 12.6 minus 12.2. 6 minus 2 is 4, decimal place right there. 12 minus 12 is a 0, if you can see it like that, right? So we just have 0.4. So our final answer here is just 0.4.
Minute Math. When you need help, you use Minute Math. Minute Math. When you need help, you use Minute Math. MinuteMathTutor.com.